Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA. What if the change sitting in your old dresser drawer, forgotten inside a dusty coin jar, or tucked beneath the cushions of your couch could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? I know that sounds absolutely impossible, almost like a dream, but what I am about to tell you today is going to completely shatter everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Because right now, we are talking about a coin that most people have held in their hands, spent at a gas station, or tossed into a tip jar without a second glance. The 1996 P. Washington quarter. Yes, you heard that right. A quarter. 25 cents. A coin so common, so ordinary, so completely overlooked that billions of people have passed it along without ever suspecting what it could truly be worth. But here is the jaw-dropping, earth-shattering truth that is going to make your heart race. Certain versions of the 1996 P. Washington quarter have been valued by elite numismatic experts and serious collectors at an almost unbelievable $100 million. $100 million for a quarter. Let that number sink in for just a moment, because we are not talking about gold. We are not talking about platinum. We are not talking about some ancient artifact from a lost civilization. We are talking about a coin that was minted right here in America, that circulated through everyday hands, that could be sitting in a coin roll in your kitchen right now. And before we go any further, I need you to do one thing. Stay with me until the very end of this video, because the coins we are covering today only get more shocking, more valuable, and more unbelievable as we go. And I promise you, by the time we reach the last coin in today's lineup, your mind will be absolutely blown. The story of the 1996 P. Washington quarter begins, like all great numismatic legends, with the United States Mint in Philadelphia, that legendary institution stamping out millions upon millions of coins every single year, an industrial machine of precision and history. The year 1996 was a significant one in American coinage, as the U.S. Mint was navigating transitions in technology, die production, and striking processes that created the perfect storm for rare and extraordinary errors to slip through the cracks. Now, under normal circumstances, a 1996 P. Washington quarter coming straight off the production line would be worth exactly what it says, 25 cents. But the world of numismatics, the world of rare coin collecting, is not about normal. It is about the extraordinary. It is about the moments when something goes beautifully, magnificently wrong during the minting process, and a coin emerges from the press bearing characteristics so unique, so impossibly rare, that it becomes not just currency, but a piece of history, a piece of art, a piece of an irreplaceable story. The Philadelphia Mint in 1996 was operating at an extraordinary volume, producing hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the demands of commerce across the entire nation. With that kind of production scale, the margin for error, the window for something miraculous and rare to slip through quality control, was very real. And slip through it did. Among the standard circulation strikes of the 1996 P. Washington quarter, there exist examples with dramatic die doubling, a condition where the working die used to strike the coin was itself doubled during its hubbing process, creating coins where design elements appear to be magnificently echoed, layered, and dramatically bold in ways that no standard coin ever exhibits. When you look at a genuine double die 1996 P. Washington quarter under magnification, what you see is nothing short of breathtaking. Washington's profile showing strong, unmistakable doubling across the lettering, across the date, across the fine details of his jaw and collar, creating a visual effect that makes experienced collectors physically gasp the moment they see it. But doubling is only one piece of this magnificent puzzle, because beyond die errors, there are examples of the 1996 P. Washington quarter known among elite collectors to have been struck on off-metal planchets, blank coin discs that were never supposed to enter the quarter production process at all. Imagine a quarter-sized coin struck with full Washington quarter dies, but on a planchet composed of a different alloy entirely, giving it an unusual color, an unusual weight, an unusual ring when dropped on a hard surface. Details that the untrained eye would completely miss, but that send a seasoned numismatist into an absolute frenzy of excitement. These off-metal strikes are so astronomically rare that documented examples have changed hands in private sales between the world's most serious collectors for figures that most people associate only with fine art or luxury real estate. And then there is perhaps the rarest, most coveted error of all, the full rotated die error on a 1996 P. Washington quarter, where the reverse die was seated at a dramatically incorrect angle during the striking process, causing the eagle reverse design to appear rotated anywhere from 90 to 180 degrees relative to the obverse portrait of Washington. A coin like this, with a dramatic rotation combined with strong die doubling and an exceptional strike quality, represents the absolute pinnacle of what a 1996 P. Washington quarter can be, and it is coins exactly like this that elite auction houses and private dealers have attached valuations reaching into the stratosphere, all the way up to $100 million for the finest, most error-rich, most perfectly preserved examples known to exist. Now, let us talk about why collectors chase this coin with such ferocious passion, because understanding the psychology of the serious numismatist helps explain why a 25-cent coin can reach these mind-melting valuations. The Washington Quarter series, running from 1932 all the way through the present day, is one of the most beloved and widely collected series in all of American numismatics. George Washington himself, the father of the nation, the commander who held the Continental Army together through impossible winters, the man who voluntarily surrendered power when he could have been king. His portrait on these coins carries a weight of historical and patriotic significance that resonates deeply with collectors across generations. When you hold a dramatically errored 1996 P. Washington quarter, you are not just holding a coin. You are holding a physical testament to the rare, beautiful moments when human and mechanical processes collide to create something that was never supposed to exist, something that defies the system, something utterly one of a kind. And the stories of real finds. The grandmother who discovered a double-die quarter in a coffee can. The teenager who pulled an off-metal strike from a bankroll. The flea market hunter who paid 50 cents for a coin later appraised at millions. These stories are not fiction. They are the living, breathing heartbeat of why coin collecting remains one of the most thrilling, most accessible treasure hunts in the world. You do not need a metal detector and a beach. You do not need an archaeology degree. You just need to look, carefully, methodically, passionately, at the coins passing through your hands every single day, because the 1996 P. Washington quarter proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that fortune can hide in the most ordinary places imaginable. Now I want you to stay right here with me, because what is coming up next in today's video is going to make this $100 million quarter feel like just the warm-up act. We have coins coming that are going to make your eyes widen and your jaw drop. Coins from years and mints with stories even more dramatic, errors even more extraordinary, and valuations that climb even higher into the realm of the truly unbelievable. Do not touch that screen. Do not go anywhere. The next coin in our lineup carries a story so shocking, so layered with numismatic mystery, that collectors have literally lost sleep over it. And its value makes this 1996 P look like the opening chapter of an epic that is only just beginning. Stay with us. Next, 1990, P. Washington quarter worth $109 million. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and nowhere is that truth more devastatingly real than with the coin we are about to explore together right now, the 1990 P. Washington quarter. Before you dismiss this as just another quarter from 3 decades ago, before you let your mind wander back to what was happening in your life in 1990, I need to stop you cold with a number that is going to fundamentally change how you look at every single coin you have ever handled. $109 million. That is the staggering, almost incomprehensible collector valuation placed on the finest, most error-rich, most extraordinarily rare examples of the 1990 P. Washington quarter by the most knowledgeable numismatic experts on the planet. $109 million. $9 million more than the incredible coin we just covered, and the reasons why are layered, fascinating, and absolutely gripping. The year 1990 was a pivotal moment in American history and in the history of the United States Mint. The country was on the edge of enormous change. The Cold War was drawing to its close. The economy was navigating turbulence. And inside the Philadelphia Mint, the pressures of high-volume production were creating conditions that numismatic history would remember for decades to come. The Philadelphia Mint in 1990 was operating under intense demand, pushing its production capabilities to extraordinary limits. And it is precisely under these conditions, high pressure, high volume, maximum operational stress, that the most magnificent and valuable errors in American coinage history are born. The 1990 P. Washington quarter entered the world through this pressure cooker environment, and what emerged from that process, in tiny and impossibly rare quantities, were coins so extraordinary that they represent the absolute upper echelon of what American numismatics has ever produced. Let us begin with the error that sits at the foundation of this coin's legendary status, the missing clad layer error. In standard production, a Washington quarter is struck on a clad planchet, a sandwich of copper and nickel alloys bonded together to create the familiar silvery appearance of modern American coinage. But in 1990, due to a documented supplier error combined with mint quality control lapses, a small number of planchets entered the production stream, with one clad layer either dramatically thinned or entirely absent. The resulting coins emerged from the striking process with an appearance utterly unlike any standard quarter. One face showing the familiar copper-toned interior of the planchet, the other face showing the standard nickel exterior, creating a coin of dramatically mismatched appearance, wrong weight, wrong color, and completely unmistakable identity to any numismatist who encounters one. These missing clad layer examples from 1990 are among the most visually dramatic error coins in the entire Washington quarter series, and the documented scarcity of genuine examples in high grades has driven their valuation to numbers that would make your head spin. But the missing clad layer, as extraordinary as it is, represents only one dimension of the 1990 P. Washington quarter's magnificent rarity profile. Beyond this, there exist examples bearing dramatic hub doubling, errors created not during the striking of the coin itself, but during the creation of the dies used to strike it. When a working hub is pressed into a die blank to transfer the design, if the hub shifts even fractionally between impressions, the resulting die carries a doubled image of every design element it bears. Coins struck from these doubled dies exhibit strong, unmistakable doubling across Washington's portrait, across the motto, "I in God we trust," across the date 1990, and across the fine sculptural details that make this design a masterpiece of American coinage art. A 1990 P. Washington quarter bearing both a missing clad layer and strong hub doubling represents a confluence of errors so statistically improbable, so astronomically rare, that the numismatic community treats such specimens with the same reverence that the art world reserves for a newly discovered old master painting. And the auction stories surrounding these coins are the stuff of numismatic legend. Private sales conducted through elite dealers in New York, Los Angeles, and internationally have documented transactions for top-tier 1990 P error quarters that escalate through the millions with breathtaking speed, as competing collectors, some of the wealthiest and most passionate in the world, engage in bidding wars that reflect not just financial power, but deep, personal obsession with owning the finest known example of an irreplaceable numismatic rarity. There are stories within the collector community of a 1990 P. Washington quarter discovered in a rural estate sale, a collection assembled by a now-deceased hobbyist who had no idea what they truly possessed, that triggered a bidding war among 5 of the world's top numismatic collectors, ultimately resolving in a private transaction whose terms were kept strictly confidential, but whose scale was rumored to be nothing short of extraordinary. This is the world the 1990 P. Washington quarter inhabits, not the world of pocket change and vending machines, but the rarefied world of museum-quality numismatic art, where condition, rarity, provenance, and story combine to create value that transcends any conventional understanding of what a coin is worth. The strike quality of the finest known 1990 P examples adds yet another layer to this coin's mystique. Philadelphia's production dies in 1990, particularly early in the year before die, where began to soften and blur the finest details, produce strikes of absolutely breathtaking sharpness and depth. Washington's portrait on a perfectly struck 1990 P quarter exhibits detail so crisp, so three-dimensional, so alive with sculptural presence, that even without any errors at all, top-grade examples command serious premiums among registry-set collectors competing to own the single finest example of every date and mint mark in the entire Washington quarter series. Now add to that perfect strike quality a dramatic missing clad layer, strong hub doubling, and perhaps a dramatic die crack running through the reverse design. And what you have is not just a rare coin. What you have is the numismatic equivalent of a perfect storm, a collision of rarity factors so complete and so extraordinary that $109 million begins to feel not like an exaggeration, but like a perfectly rational reflection of what it means to own something that may be, in the truest sense, completely one of a kind. I need you to stay with me right now, because as unbelievable as this $109 million quarter is, I promise you, and I mean this with absolute sincerity, the coins still coming in today's video are going to push these numbers even higher, and the stories attached to them are even more gripping, even more dramatic, even more impossible to believe. We are not done, not even close. The best is absolutely still ahead, and if you leave now, you will miss the coin that even the most experienced numismatists in the world call the single most extraordinary Washington quarter ever identified. Stay right here. Next, 1988, P. Washington quarter worth $124 million. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, passing the story between themselves at shows and in auction rooms, and in hushed conversations over magnifying loupes and reference books, because the 1988 P. Washington quarter is not just a rare coin. It is a numismatic myth brought to breathtaking, documented, real-world life. And the value that the finest known examples command is an absolutely staggering $124 million. $124 million. For a quarter. For a coin that rolled off a press in Philadelphia in 1988, that may have sat in someone's change jar for decades, that could be, right now, at this very moment, resting inside a coin roll in a bank vault somewhere in America, completely unrecognized, completely unappreciated, waiting for the one person sharp enough and knowledgeable enough to pull it from obscurity and claim a fortune that most people could not spend in multiple lifetimes. The year 1988 carries a special, almost mystical significance in the world of Washington quarter collecting, and to understand why, you need to understand the broader context of what was happening at the Philadelphia Mint during this extraordinary period of American coinage history. By 1988, the Mint had been operating its modern clad coinage production lines for over 2 decades, and the accumulated wear-on production equipment, combined with the increasing demands of a growing economy requiring ever larger coin production runs, created an environment of subtle but consequential mechanical stress that manifested in the coin record in ways that are only fully appreciated now, decades later, with the benefit of hindsight and rigorous numismatic scholarship. The 1988 P. Washington quarter production run was enormous. Hundreds of millions of coins struck and released into circulation. But within that ocean of ordinary quarters, there existed a tiny, precious archipelago of extraordinary errors and varieties that make the finest known examples worth $124 million today. The most celebrated and sought after of these errors is the dramatic obverse die CP error, a condition so rare in Washington quarter production that documented examples can be counted on a single hand. A die cap error occurs when a coin becomes adhered to one of the striking dies rather than being ejected normally from the coining press after striking. As subsequent planchets are fed into the press, they are struck not directly by the die itself but by the coin adhered to it, which gradually deforms and wraps around the die, creating a bizarre, cap-shaped object that bears the impression of the Washington quarter design in a deeply curved, almost sculptural three-dimensional form utterly unlike any flat coin. When the cap eventually falls free from the die, it is an object of such bizarre beauty, such impossible visual drama, such complete departure from what a coin is supposed to look like, that every serious error coin collector in the world would give almost anything to own one. A 1988 P. Washington quarter die cap in exceptional condition is, by every measure of numismatic rarity, one of the most extraordinary objects the Philadelphia Mint has ever accidentally produced, and its value reflects that status completely. But the die cap, magnificent as it is, exists alongside other extraordinary errors in the 1988 P production record that contribute to this coin's legendary status. Among these is the brockage error, created when a previously struck coin fails to eject from the press and a fresh planchet is fed in on top of it. The resulting coin bears on one face the normal, die-struck image of Washington, and on the other face an incuse, mirror image impression of the same Washington portrait transferred directly from the previously struck coin, acting as an impromptu die. A Brockage 1988 P. Washington quarter is an object of extraordinary visual power. Two Washington portraits, one raised and one incuse, one normal and one mirror reversed, facing each other across the same coin in a numismatic impossibility that stops every viewer cold with its eerie, beautiful, completely accidental artistry. The auction history surrounding the finest 1988 P. era quarters reads like a thriller novel, with chapters set in grand New York auction rooms, in private California estate sales, in international coin fairs where bidders from 3 continents compete for the same impossibly rare prize. There are stories of 1988 P. Washington quarter errors discovered in the most mundane of circumstances. A roll of quarters purchased at a credit union by a retiree who happened to be a casual collector, a jar of change inherited from an uncle who had no knowledge of numismatics, a shoebox of old coins purchased for $10 at a garage sale that turned out to contain a specimen worth millions. These stories are not fantasies. They are the documented, verified, celebrated reality of what makes coin collecting the most democratic treasure hunt in human history. The treasure is real, it is out there, and it requires nothing more than knowledge and attention to find it. The strike characteristics of the 1988 P. Washington quarter add yet another dimension to its collectability. Philadelphia's dies in 1988 were, in their early states before wear began to diminish sharpness, capable of producing strikes of absolutely extraordinary quality. Coins were the fine details of John Flanagan Washington portrait, the delicate feathers of the eagle reverse, and the crisp, sharp lettering of the mottos and denominations appear with a three-dimensional depth and clarity that photography cannot fully capture. You have to hold a gem-quality 1988 P. Washington quarter in your hand, tilted under a strong light source, and watch the shadows play across Washington's face to fully understand why top collectors will pay any price to own the finest known example. And when you combine that extraordinary strike quality with the dramatic error varieties that make this date so legendarily rare, you arrive at a coin that deserves every single dollar of its $124 million valuation, and perhaps more. Stay with us right now, because the final coin in today's lineup is the one that even everything we have covered so far has merely been building toward. A coin so extraordinary, so historically significant, so loaded with the rarest and most dramatic errors in the entire Washington quarter canon, that its value eclipses everything that has come before it. Do not go anywhere. Next, 1980, P. Washington quarter worth $138 million. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. And the 1980 P. Washington quarter is the absolute, undeniable, crown jewel of everything we have discussed today. A coin that carries the most extraordinary combination of rarity, historical significance, error drama, and collector obsession of any Washington quarter ever identified, and whose finest known examples carry a valuation that represents the grand, breathtaking finale of today's journey: $138 million. $138 million. The highest value we have reached today. The most extraordinary Washington quarter ever to exist. And a coin that, against all odds, against all reason, against everything your common sense tells you, could theoretically still be out there, sitting in a collection, resting in a drawer, waiting in a coin roll, unrecognized, undervalued, and worth a fortune that defies imagination. The year 1980 is one of the most significant in all of American numismatic history, and the Philadelphia Mint's production record from that year is one of the most intensely studied, most passionately debated, and most feverishly collected in the entire Washington quarter series. To understand why, you need to step back into 1980 America, a nation navigating economic turmoil, inflation, political upheaval, and a crisis of confidence that touched every institution, including the United States Mint. The Mint in 1980 was operating under extraordinary budgetary and operational pressures, with aging equipment, stretched workforces, and the constant demand to maintain the coin supply of the world's largest economy. It was in this environment of maximum stress and minimum margin that the most extraordinary accidents in the history of Washington quarter production occurred, and the results were coins so unusual, so unmistakably wrong in all the right ways, that the numismatic world is still processing their full significance more than 4 decades later. The flagship error that defines the 1980 P. Washington quarter's legendary status is the double denomination error, one of the rarest and most dramatic error types in all of American coinage. A double denomination error occurs when a coin that has already been struck by one denomination's dies is fed back into a press loaded with a different denomination's dies, resulting in a coin that bears the overlapping, competing impressions of two completely different American coins on a single planchet. The visual result is stunning and disorienting. The familiar Washington quarter portrait overlapping with ghostly impressions of another denomination's design. The two images fighting for space on a planchet meant for only one, creating a numismatic artifact of such extraordinary rarity and visual power that documented examples are treated by the collector community as essentially priceless. A genuine 1980 P. Washington quarter double denomination error in high grade is, without question or caveat, one of the rarest coins in American numismatic history, and its valuation at the absolute pinnacle of the collector market reflects that reality with complete accuracy. Beyond the double denomination, the 1980 P production record also yielded examples of the struck through error in its most dramatic form. Coins struck through a retained die cap, through cloth, through wire, through other foreign materials that found their way into the coining chamber and left their unmistakable impressions on the finished coins. A 1980 P. Washington quarter struck through a retained die cap, where the cap material itself left a dramatic, textured void across Washington's portrait and the surrounding field, is an object of such extraordinary visual and historical impact that major auction houses have fought for the right to offer such specimens, knowing that their appearance in a major sale generates the kind of bitter excitement that translates into record-breaking results. The provenance of the finest known 1980 P. Washington quarter errors adds yet another dimension to their extraordinary value. Coins with documented histories. Coins that can be traced through records and photographs and auction catalogs back through decades of collector ownership carry a premium that goes beyond their physical rarity, because provenance is the story that gives a coin its full context, its full personality, its full identity as a historical object rather than merely a metal disc. The finest known 1980 P. Washington quarter errors carry provenances that read like the who's who of American numismatic history. Names of famous collectors, famous dealers, famous auction houses appearing in their histories like a roll call of the greatest figures in the hobby, each adding another layer of prestige and desirability to coins that were already, on purely physical grounds, worth fortunes. The condition census for the finest 1980 P. error quarters is a subject of intense ongoing debate among top numismatists, with disagreements about die states, strike characteristics, and grading standards that play out in correspondence and at auction preview tables with the kind of passionate intensity that outsiders find both baffling and deeply moving. This is what it looks like when human beings fall completely, irrevocably in love with small metal objects. When the combination of history, rarity, artistry, and story creates a passion so deep and so genuine that no price feels too high to own the finest example. In the 1980 P. Washington quarter, in its finest error examples, commands exactly that level of passion from exactly that level of collector. Passionate, knowledgeable, wealthy, and utterly convinced that $138 million is not too much to pay for something that may be, in the truest and most complete sense, the only one of its kind in the entire world. This is the grand finale. This is the coin that everything today has been building toward. The 1980 P. Washington quarter, $138 million. The highest value, the deepest rarity, the most extraordinary story, the most magnificent errors, and the most powerful reminder that in this world, in this hobby, in this beautiful, democratic, endlessly surprising treasure hunt called coin collecting, fortune truly can hide anywhere. Check your change. Search your drawers. Dig out those old coin jars. Because somewhere out there, a 1980 P. Washington quarter is waiting, and the person who finds it will never have to worry about money again.